Gland Pharma was a complete disappointment in terms of a reaction as well when it came to its second quarter numbers. And remember, it is, though it reported what was a recovery on a sequential basis. Now, the disappointment this quarter was primarily on the margins. The margin disappointment was led by factors such as a change in geography as well as the product mix, possible inventory write-offs as well as higher competition. Yes, the first half was a miss and FY23 could be a tough year. But what seems to be worrying the street is the medium-term outlook for the company, the medium-term growth outlook for the company. The company from FY18 to FY22 reported a revenue and EBITDA growth of over 25% CAGR. The street is now skeptical on whether the company can get back to those growth figures. A few challenges, according to analysts, for medium-term growth include delays in addressing product-specific issues, higher competition, and slower than anticipated recovery in the India business, and higher operating costs, as well as maybe ironing out of the supply-related challenges that they've been facing. I just want to add that besides the earnings disappointment in the first half, the street has also been worried about the liquidity of the promoter, Fosun Pharma's holding company, Fosun International. So these are a couple of factors to keep in mind for Gland Pharma. We are seeing a little bit of downside in today's trading session as well. To talk more about Gland as well as a lot of the other pharmaceutical stocks, we have Bino P, who's the Director of Research at InCreed Capital, who joins in now. Bino, hi, welcome to the show. Well, you've been a long-term watcher of Gland now. Tell us, what would your key worry be on Gland, and do you think that it could get back to those 20% plus growth levels and margins of over 30% that it used to enjoy?
Sure. Hi, Ekta. So when thinking about what Gland can deliver going ahead, we have to keep two things in mind. One, if you look back the last 5 years, 5 years back, Gland was operating at a very low base. So growing on that base was a relatively easy thing, whereas the 5 years of growth has put a very high base on Gland, and already a lot of the attractive products in the US, they have already launched. So incrementally, the growth rates would be tougher as the base grows. So that is one point to be considered. And probably I would also look at the role the COVID and the associated lockdown played. The COVID and the associated lockdown suddenly created a huge demand for injectable capacities globally, which can sell into the regulated markets. So Gland significantly benefited from this increased demand, sudden increase in demand for injectable capacity. But now with COVID and the lockdowns behind us, a lot of that extra demand or excess demand has dried out of the market. So naturally, the kind of premium pricing they could charge must have suffered quite a bit. So all these factors need to be put in the right place when looking at the forward growth rates possible. Having said that, there are some growth opportunities which Gland management is pursuing. They're continuing to file and launch more than 20 products a year in the US. They are accelerating their filings in the US, in China. They are actively expanding in other markets outside of India, China, and US. So all this will get Gland to a growth path once their FY23 base settles down. But of course, I would think that it would be a bit lower than what growth rates are used to.
Okay. Just a quick follow-up, Bino, on Gland. If you had to compare Gland's business in terms of injectables to the likes of Aurobindo, as well as even say something like a Dr. Reddy's, how would it stack up?
So Gland, as a strategy, Gland till now has focused on plain vanilla injectables business. Its capability is in very low cost, highly efficient manufacturing and extreme compliance. Till now, Gland has not got even a single warning letter from the US FDA. Whereas if we look at Dr. Reddy's and Aurobindo, it's a more diversified business. Plus, within injectables itself, they focus more on high-value, complex products, especially Dr. Reddy's. So to that extent, the business is slightly different. But of course, now Gland has also started moving in the direction of adding more complex products to its pipeline, because the growth from plain vanilla injectable products may not be as great on the current high base.
Bino, just wanted to understand, that you said that there are a few growth triggers for Gland as well. They are investing for some future growth, potential growth opportunities. The stock has corrected almost 50% from the top. This year itself, it's halved. And in just the last three trading sessions, it's corrected about 15-16 odd percent. At lower levels, when does it become attractive? When do the risks, or rather, when do the opportunities outweigh the risks in the stock?
So there are a few questions around the sustainable level of revenue margins, what the company can do, which we will get more clarity on that as the Q3 and Q4 of this year results come by. From there, we need to understand what's the possible medium-term growth. So if I roughly assume that what we have seen in Q2 is kind of a base level of performance, and assuming that they can deliver a mid-teen sort of growth on top of that year after year over the medium term, I think value has started emerging in the stock at around these prices.
Okay. Bino, I wanted your thoughts on Sun Pharma. Taro has been a bit of a subdued quarter in performance this time, especially in terms of the operations. What is your view?
Sure. So Sun Pharma at a consolidated level is an exceptionally good business. Some parts of it sometimes suffer, some parts of it deliver very well, kind of compensate each other. As a whole entity, Sun Pharma still looks attractive, especially given the way the global specialty business is panning out, still continuing to grow at 20 to 30% rates. Taro has been a disappointment for several quarters now. The quarter that was just reported was even worse. But as long as the rest of the business is doing well and compensating for it, I would keep Taro on the side for the time being.
Okay, all right, Bino, we're going to let you go. I'm sure you have a busy day ahead of you with the Dr. Reddy's numbers expected. Thanks very much for joining in and speaking with us. So that is the view coming in on the pharmaceutical space. A couple of key stocks such as Gland as well as